Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restauranttopia.
Welcome back to Restauranttopia. We got a great episode here today. It's near and dear to my heart. It's my employer, Dave's employer, one of Anthony's employers.
I got a lot.
He's always working hard. Selecting a distributor. We all work for Hillcrest Foods here in Cleveland, Ohio. It services all of. Let's talk about selecting a distributor. So in the room today, I got Anthony Hamilton, Dave Ross, and then myself, Brian Seitz. So let's get into this. Dave, take it away.
I really was excited to do this topic because I think as we're speaking to restaurant owners, managers, and things, and as you're listening, when you think about the decision to select a distributor, it's really important because at the end of the day, depending on your concept, you're spending, anywhere from probably 25 to 40% of your expense is going to that distributor. It's an important decision selecting a distributor because it's a lot of the expense in the restaurant. Anywhere from 25 to 40% is going into that distributor's pockets. So that partnership and relationship is important when selecting because you want to make sure what type of distributor it is, what type of pricing you're getting, what type of service you're getting, all those different things. So, I kind of put together a checklist we'll have in the show notes, but we're just going to talk a little bit about all those different things and what you should be looking for. If we just talk about the type of distributor, when you look at, at least in Northeast Ohio, you've got a broad selection of distributors that you could select as a restaurant. So, and I'm sure in most geographics, you're going to have the same thing. You're going to have potentially local distributors that are servicing just a smaller region. You're going to have national distributors that are all over the place and in your region. And then you're going to have specialty guys that, that are typically local. You're going to have specialty guys that just specialize in certain things. Maybe they just sell produce, they just sell meat, they just sell fish, they just sell import goods. And then you're going to have what's called a broadline distributor who really sells kind of the gamut. They're probably going to distribute most things that a restaurant's going to buy. When you look at those two things, it's really two selections. So I'm going to start off with local versus national. My belief, and I think everybody in the room here, is that, when you're evaluating a distributor, you're always going to have a better chance at getting the things you want with a local distributor. And what I mean by that is, and I'm going to get into these later, pricing, service, value adds, all those things. But the biggest thing that you're going to get from a local distributor versus a national when you're a local restaurant, which is who we're talking to, the biggest thing you're going to get is pricing advantage. And how that works is that if you can Google Sysco's GP or US Foods, gross profit margin, and you're going to find a percentage. Sysco's anywhere from 18 to 19%. When you look at that math problem, when Sysco's all over the country distributing national chains, if they're averaging, let's say 18% conservatively, what do you think that they're charging those national chains if their average is 18?
I would say less than 10%.
Yeah, it's probably 10 to 12%, somewhere in there, 9 to 11, 12%. So in order to get to an 18% average, what do they have to charge the local guys in their areas?
Yeah, 30.
Yeah, 28, 30%. We've been very lucky to know this firsthand because we've done the analysis on pricing for restaurants I've done it for 14 years, and every time we go in and you have a Sysco, US Foods, a GFS, those bigger box distributors, you're looking at 20 to 25 to 30% margin versus the cost the distributor has, owns the product. It's real. If you're the type of operator that is just looking at specific items and things like that, there's stuff, obviously there's a mix, they could be aggressive on, priced on things that maybe that's a hot button for you, but overall, when you look at purchasing that you're doing, they're going to end up at that mid 20s to 30% margin. Now, a local distributor has the same business model. Okay, the only thing is they don't have national chains to support the low end aggressive pricing. What they have is larger local independents. Okay, local broadline distributors. If you're buying over $5,000 a week from them, you're probably in their top line of customers and probably have the best pricing. But it's kind of like the best way to put it is the big fish in the ocean or a big fish in a pond. When you're out in the ocean, it don't matter how big you are. There's a lot of water. Okay, it can be a decent sized fish in a pond. Maybe a 2-foot bass or something like that.
Well, that's what we buy it at.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's how we purchase it.
Obviously after it's cut.
Oh yeah, homage to episode 1 or 2, whatever that. But yeah, so that math problem is with every distributor. Like they have larger volume customers that they're going to be a little more aggressive on pricing, and then they've got lower volume customers that are going to. Thing is that when you're a local independent restaurant buying anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a week in food in those big box distributors worlds, that's not a lot. When you've got somebody buying millions and millions and sometimes billions of dollars across the country.
And you can still be an important customer to a local broadliner. as long as you purchase the majority of your stuff from them. Like even if you have one location, it may not seem like a lot, the big box world, but at a local independent distributor, that one unit location is still very, very important.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
I mean, provided they don't have 10 purveyors.
Well, right, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about is that when you pick the correct broadline distributor, and you have to take these guys for a test drive. A couple different scenarios, like maybe you're opening a restaurant brand new, and you just got to get open, you got to get some stuff, but at some point you got to evaluate these things.
Yeah.
And so if you're buying from a bunch of specialty people and really splitting up your buying power, like you're not going to have the best pricing. You think that, well, I'm going to get the best price from this guy and this guy and this guy, but what restaurant operators don't understand is that if you're buying from 6 or 7 different distributors, you have 6 or 7 different professional salespeople trying to make money.
Well, and also think about the environment. You got 6 or 7 trucks delivering your facility. All the product can be put on one truck and made one delivery. And that's one thing that I think about, the convenience of going through one broadline distributor. You have one drop. You have one person interacting with your staff on that drop. You have one drop time or drop window. So all those things combined, it's saving you time out of your day. And you really need to, as a restaurateur, work on business improvement all the time. And this, in my mind, is a great way to do that because you can take time out of the system, but also simplify.
From a chef standpoint, I think this gets really tough because you mentioned it earlier. You have your broadliner that can deliver all the products, but are they a jack of all trades, master of none? And that was maybe some of the problems I had coming up. The chef and their ethos is, I have to deliver the best of the best. I'm going to go to the best of the best to get the best of the best. And whoever does fish the best, I'm going to go there. And whoever does meat the best, I'm going to go there. And whoever does truffles the best, I'm going to go there, right? The good thing about fine dining is your prices are more elastic for your diners because they're not so conservative in their pocketbooks, right? They're coming here, but the difference between $32 and $36 for an entree is minimal to that clientele. However, I still think it would behoove chefs to kind of consolidate a little bit, right? So the more eggs in one basket, just like you said, Brian, is absolutely imperative to saving and making money. The higher up in the chain you go, though, as a chef, it gets more and more difficult to put those eggs in the one basket because, again, you have a yearning for the top quality of everything.
I agree and I disagree.
I'm glad you agree and disagree because I do as well.
I 100% disagree in the sense of
Only 100%?
100%. I disagree in it because it depends who that broadline distributor is.
100%.
Because if you're dealing with one of the national broadliners and they're trying to push their blue label truffle butter on you, or their blue label cod, or their blue label French fry, like those are the sorts of things that you got to look out for where, yeah, quality's going to suffer versus if you got a great local broadline distributor that is not pushing products on you, but you're going to them and say, I need, this is, critical to my operation. I love this one truffle butter from northern wherever. Now, that's the type of distributor you want to work with, someone that is going to be able to go out, find that product, price it, stock it, and then be able to ship it to you when you need it.
That's exactly why you go with an independent. It's just like the restaurant you go to that you're a regular there, and you sit down on a Saturday night in the middle of the rush, and you say, you know what, I want an egg white omelet with chanterelle mushrooms. And the staff looks at you like you have one head instead of two, and they go back and talk to the chef, and guess what? In 15 minutes, you have your egg white omelet in the middle of a Saturday night. It's not even on the menu. They're willing to go that extra mile for the customers, just as an independent broadliner should, and be flexible enough to be able to.
Well, and I also think that there's a small percentage of that high quality chef that needs a particular item that he can only get in one place. When you look at the restaurant industry, people that can demand that huge price point and have a 50-seat dining room and do millions of dollars a year in business, because they're doing covers that are just outrageous, like that's not happening everywhere. When you look at the normal restaurant scene and people that need to purchase product, like you can get the majority of your stuff from one place. Now, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't want anybody to sacrifice quality in order to buy from me or anybody else, that they thought, I'm just going to buy this crappy ingredient because this is what they have. But, I think that that situation of a chef that needs to buy the best of everything in order to operate, I think is a very small percentage, just my opinion.
And I agree with you. And I didn't realize that till I came over from the chef world, and I thought I was on top of the world. And then I realized when I got here that it was such a small percentage of restaurants for fine dining. Go back to the one point you just said, though, where you said you wouldn't want them to buy it if it were lower quality. You mean like buy it from your distributor at a lower quality? You would rather them go buy from someone else?
If somebody came to me with a problem of a product and they're looking for something, and this has happened where they need something specific that just for whatever reason we can't get it. We don't do business with the vendor. We don't, the minimums are too big, like whatever it is, or they just don't buy that much and it's not worth stocking. Like just all those things. Yeah, no, it's okay to turn down business.
I love that so much because it's the opposite of what what I've experienced in my career. The fact that if you look out for my well-being first, which I think you'll find in a family-run operation with more humanistic elements to it, you're actually looking out for my well-being. You're sacrificing a little bit of yourself so I do better. And on the surface, that seems very selfless and awesome and amazing, and it is for all intents and purposes. But from a business standpoint, certainly it helps you out in the long run too.
No, it's a long play. You know what I mean? Like, for somebody to want everything and have no regard for, because listen, you're not selling a car or a toaster or a refrigerator that they're not going to need for 5 more years. You're selling French fries every day of the week. You know what I mean? And it's daily distribution. Yeah. So you have interactions and you have, so these people, and I'll talk about this later in the show, but the relationships and all those things, like these are people you're going to interact with like multiple times a week and potentially a day. So this has to fit. It can't be an awkward relationship or something that's like, it's a pain, or you don't want to pick up the phone, or you don't, you know what I mean? Like it's got to work.
But it's also a give and take where there's an open dialogue. If someone else is selling chicken for cheaper than I am, I want to know about that. Is the market moved against us? We need to know on these things and make sure that we're doing the best job on our end of buying power. But also, is that competitor just trying to steal the business and giving you good pricing for one day, and then 2 months from now they're going to raise their pricing and constantly raise their pricing?
Those games, games happen every day of the week, and as an operator, you have to be aware of those games. And there's some operators that like that game. There's actually operators that they know that they're just getting the cheap price today and it's not going to last, but they just love the negotiation. They love to grind the guy down. They love to have 3 different people and go, what's your price and what's your price and what's your price? But if that's what you want to spend your time on, I mean, wouldn't you rather spend time with your guests, spend time with your staff, make your operations better? Like, I know plenty of operators that they spend so much time like negotiating and doing that stuff, and you need to negotiate it once, revisit it, maybe yearly, and have a great relationship that's sustainable.
Yeah, and the same is true with the guy who he has 2 locations and spends Saturday morning and all of Monday driving 300 miles round trip to go to every,
save money.
Yeah, to go to every different place. It's like, oh my God, like to me, that's what you want to do with your time? Versus opening a 3rd location or mining out some profit and doing business improvement at your current locations. There's so many things that you can make money off of that are easier to do than drive around town to pick up an extra bag of flour.
You typically don't save to success, That's usually not the recipe. But what you guys are talking about, though, is you need a lot of trust in your distributor. And then you talk about the games. So from my standpoint as an operator, who do I trust? I don't know what the prices are coming in. I have no idea. It's all Greek to me. And you just said there's a lot of games behind the scenes. Like, how does a restaurant start trusting a distributor?
Well, it comes over time. You have to earn it. So you got to spend time. You got to make sure you feel comfortable. And you have to have a connection with the people. And then it builds, I feel. You know what I mean? Like when you know that they're, just the comment you made earlier, like, oh, you would not sell me that because it's lesser quality or because it's not up to my standards. Like, yeah, like when you start having conversations like that, people, they start feeling good that you're taking care of them. You're not taking care of your agenda. You're taking care of them. You're not taking care of your agenda. And so, and we can go into all other kinds of things that put that all together, but that just takes time. And that, you may make a bad decision. You may have a great company and you may have a sleazy sales rep. You may have a crappy company and a great sales rep. Like that equation can happen. But both of them ultimately would, the best optimal situation for those to be aligned. You've got a great person that you trust representing the company, and you've got a great company backing them up.
Yeah, and I think that goes to motivation. What does the sales reps comp look like? What does the underlying mission of the company that he works for look like? Those things all have to be in line. If it's, push our private label onto people and sell as much as possible and bring new people on, you're going to have a horrible relationship long term, and it's just not built for success. Versus our mission statement. Can you read it again? I love it.
Yeah, it's to love our employees and customers for lifetime loyalty.
No, that's powerful.
Let's break that down. To love our employees, okay, and customers for lifetime loyalty.
Okay.
So for employees to have loyalty, our customers to have loyalty, and to love them. And it's not lip service. It's something that's real, and it's something that we want our employees to win. We want them to have great incomes and be comfortable and have a good family life and race to work and race home. The same for our customers. We want to love them and care for them and know that if we help them in their business, that helps us. You know what I mean? When their business goes up, our business goes up. When they stay in business, we stay in business.
It's so profound to me, and I don't get as much time with the customers as I would like, because I'm not in the sales side, but I do get to help out customers and do some business improvement things with them. And I tell them, like, if say it's a new customer, it's someone I'm just helping out as a favor, we're gonna go to your restaurant 50, 100, 150 times a year. I don't want to start this relationship for 6 months or 2 years. I want you to be in business and us to be in a relationship for 20 years. I'm horrible at breaking up. I want a long-term relationship. And that's what I think that these other national food service companies don't see, because they motivate their people on sales and that everything is pushed completely to the bottom line. I want everyone to make money, because if I'm not making money, I'm annoyed. If you're not making money, I'm annoyed by that too, because you're not going to be around. If you look at the motivation of these national broadliners, they're constantly serving Wall Street. They constantly have to produce a profit, firing different groups of people if they're not performing, constantly holding people's feet to the fire, and that causes people to make poor decisions.
It's all a numbers game at that point in time. It's like once you get so big, it's like you're detached from the human experience of the whole thing, and it only becomes about that spreadsheet.
You're right. And then you have a directive from the headquarters, which, push more of these French fries because we're going to mine out, 75 basis points, and it's going to make us millions
it's complete
and millions
bullshit.
of dollars.
It undermines the spirit of our whole industry, and that's I'm actually kind of getting worked up about it, because it's hospitality through and through, and I see restaurant operators sacrificing costs and expenses all the times for the sake of hospitality, whether they're donating or comping a meal, helping a homeless person out, spending their time during the pandemic to feed people for free.
We've seen a lot of that lately.
And then their partnership with a corporate monster is only about numbers, and it's like, my God, get back down to earth.
Well, and also we're selling food, but the restaurateur is turning that box into a work of art. Is turning that into something great,
something intimate. You're putting it in freaking people's bodies, man. That's a tight knit relationship. You should not take the humanization out of that.
Absolutely. And that person, that chef, that line cook, whoever, is an artist. I mean, they're putting together something that didn't exist before, and they're presenting it to people. The public is so finicky. I mean, if you're not putting out a good product consistently, they are going to lambaste you. I mean, they're going to go after you.
Yeah, that part's tough.
Well,
I've had some sleepless nights.
Correct. You got to be on top of your game. So and this is kind of a long way of saying it. Everyone on your team needs to be rowing in the same direction and working to help you. And that's one thing that I like to say I do here at Hillcrest is I want to help operators out. I had someone was trying to sell their business the other day, and an accountant called me up and says, "Hey, are you going to take a fee on this? Are you going to try to get a brokerage fee on selling this business?" I go, "No, if one of our customers want to buy this business, I just want to make the connection and help them out and make them grow and make their family more successful."
And you don't think that person's going to be grateful for your connection, and even if they're not, like it's again, it always goes back, and we'll repeat this probably 10 more times. It's the long play. You know what I mean? If you're trying to get the cash grab right now, it's never going to work out long term.
No. If I'm like, I got to get 4% on this transaction fee, or I want to charge them $30,000 worth of attorney's fees. It's like that's not how I make my money. That's not how I enjoy doing things. Because it's so one-time transactional, and it's just I want to build relationships, and the money will come. It always does.
I don't care if you're doing bad or good in this world. It always comes back around to you, right? So I'm a huge proponent of do good and you'll do well, and Brian, I think that exemplifies that. So it's very selfless on the front end, but there always reciprocates some sort of award, and that award could be intrinsic. It could just be a good feeling, or it could be another opportunity. This person thought of you, and it's just all good juju, man, for everybody involved.
No question. So I want to talk a little bit about, as an operator, what makes you important to a distributor. And this is something that I don't think is talked about a lot and is very important, because if you understand what makes you important to the distributor as a restaurant, then I think you can unlock a lot of things that can help you in negotiating, help you in, better pricing, help you better service, all those things. Okay. So, a couple things that, we look at: pay your bills quickly. I mean, if you're somebody that demands the distributor to be a bank, you're going to pay for that. You know what I mean? Like,
I can tell you, no one realizes that, by the way. And on the other side of the fence is like, how long of terms can I have so that way I have more flexibility in my cash flow as an operator? You don't realize that comes at an expense. I would like to shout that from the rooftops if we could, because man.
Yeah, I mean, you could take out a credit card and actually spend less on interest carrying a balance than you would carrying terms with a distributor.
And it shouldn't be a surprise, right? Because the longer you run your terms, the higher the risk. The higher the risk, the higher reward needs to be, right? Because you're going to fail sometimes. You got to make that up.
Yeah, it's just good business practice to not extend yourself, especially with a vendor. It's just, to me, that's one thing I'm constantly coaching people up on. How can you get your financial house in order? And that's something you need to be constantly on top of.
COD, man.
And I think a lot of operators hopefully learned this lesson during the pandemic, because if you had long terms with a distributor and we went into the pandemic and things got shut down and you had to pivot to carry out, or maybe you closed and all of a sudden you got a 3, 4, 5 week balance with a distributor, that's tough, man. And it creates a very awkward situation in the partnership. Well, because the distributor needs paid. I mean, they're going through the pandemic as well. And they're going through the tough time, and even outside of pandemic. Like, when you purchase the food, typically you've sold it within 7 days. And made the money on that purchase. You know what I mean? So
if you get a drop on Friday, that most of that food is gone by Saturday night.
Sure. Pay fast, because that's important in the distribution world. No distributor wants to be a bank. Mm-hmm. The other end of this is that if hard times come and you need some assistance and you need to push out a week, it's way easier to do it if you're paying COD and you go, hey, can I get a week because things are tough and I'm trying to get through a certain situation. But if you already got 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks and you're asking for a week, it's a way tougher thing to accomplish.
In my experience, that's the beginning of the end when you look at an operator who is then that far out. And it also goes to, if you ever want to transition, if you ever want to sell your business, to kind of have that mindset and that practice in place. So if you do sell your restaurant for $400,000 or whatever the number is, you're not taking $30,000 off the top for this continuous loan that you've had for a decade.
Yeah, and plus you're going to have typically maybe a week of inventory. Mm-hmm. If you have a week of payables and a week of inventory, that's a wash. You know what I mean? If you pay COD, you actually get the money for that inventory. You know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
So you look at that too as far as on the sell end. But yeah, pay quickly. The second thing is try to limit your deliveries, in the same sense that you don't want to buy, you really want to try not to buy from multiple different distributors. You don't want to take one distributor and have more deliveries and service than you need.
This one's huge, by the way, just so you know.
Oh yeah, no, it's
huge.
It is, because every distributor is going to look at their margin per drop, it's called, so their gross profit per drop. Just to give you an example, if you buy $5,000 a week and you can do it in one delivery, that's way more important to a distributor than buying $5,000 a week and needing 5 deliveries or 3 deliveries. They have an expense. Most distributors look at a cost per case and cost per drop and all that, but they have an expense to do that service. So if they're doing it 5 times a week versus 1 or 2, there's a different pricing model that's going to happen to you.
And that's important when you think about restaurant design. How big is your freezer? How big is your cooler? You're buying your refrigerator at Home Depot. It's probably not going to be big enough for a week's worth of food.
Yeah, and the tough part about that, again, from an operator standpoint, is you got to be more organized. And let's face it, especially in the fine dining independent world where I was, I didn't see a lot of organization. It was a lot of, I'm stretched too thin in so many different directions. I jot shit down on a piece of paper and I hope I get to it later, and that's my order, and I hope I get it in before cutoff. And now you're asking someone to predict or forecast 5 days out for their product. It's tough to do, but it's not impossible. And I think with a little more discipline, if operators knew how important that was, and then what you talked about, having less contact, less parcels of time dedicated to that delivery, you get it in one fell swoop. It's more efficient. Get your shelf stocked, everything's good. And oh, by the way, your pricing comes out better, the distributor's happier with you get a better partnership, get more organized.
Yeah, and most distributors, that's a negotiation point. If let's say you're switching distributors and you're doing 4 deliveries a week and you're going to the new distributor and you're like, hey, you know what, I think I can get this down to 2. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
Like that's you should be able to have that conversation because
Yeah.
that means
Yeah.
something.
Consolidating those deliveries, you check in the product one time. You get to inspect it. You get to know if, hey, the mushrooms weren't up to par this week. I need another box of those. And you have one point of contact for that versus like, all right, who's our mushroom guy this week? Where are we getting the bell peppers from? Having that single point of contact, getting the majority of your purchase from your broadliner is so important.
And that's happened. Like when I was a sales rep, like I've had customers call me and be like, "Hey, you got to pick up these red peppers." And I look and I go, well, "I haven't sold you red peppers in a month. If you still have those, they are bad."
I've sent the wrong product back to the wrong company before.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I still want a credit though.
Yeah, so pay quick, limited deliveries, give as much volume as possible to the broadline distributor. Again, the more volume you give them, it's a negotiating point. And Anthony, you stole my fourth point: is be organized. If you're the person that is shooting from the hip and making mistakes and asking the rep to bring will calls out every day of the week and doing all those things, I hate to give you the unknown secret, but you're going to pay for that.
Yes.
You're going to pay for that service, okay? It's got to be a partnership.
It only makes sense that you pay for that service, but I still think some people don't realize it. They think, and distributors get abused a lot. And again, I'm not proud of it, but in my first couple years as a chef, I didn't have that empathy. I thought, look, you're here to serve me. Yeah. It wasn't until a couple years I was like, oh, wait. I wouldn't want my customers to treat me like that. My customers in my dining room, when they complain about something or they send in a funky ticket or ask for a special order, I get pissed off. So why am I doing that to someone else?
It's a relationship. At the end of the day, no matter which way you cut it, it's a relationship, and you want that to be a good relationship. So do the things that you do to cultivate a relationship, being respectful, honor that person's time, and they'll honor you back. I fully believe that.
Yeah. So let's talk about service a little bit. So some couple of things to check off when you're evaluating distributors is what's their will call recovery like? Can a rep actually bring product when needed? Or do they have rules against that? Now, I'm not talking about bringing a case of chicken when it's 90 degrees out in their trunk. I'm not talking about that. But I'm saying, does the rep have the ability to bring you product, when needed? Do they have a recovery service? Distributors out there that actually have refrigerated vehicles that go out in the afternoon and recover product. Do they have that service? And then where's it located compared to your restaurant? Like, do you have the ability to go there and pick up yourself? Convenient thing to do. So those are things that I don't think are talked about in the beginning, but it's something to talk about to see on the service end. I don't think it's a bad thing to talk to the distributor about what their service levels are. What is their fill rate? Fill rate meaning like how many out of stocks do they take versus in stocks? So how are they? What's the fill rate on the customers? What's their on-time delivery average? Delivering into the time windows of their customers. What kind of errors do they have on the operation side? Mispicks or sending the wrong product or whatever. Like if the sales rep doesn't know those numbers, they can get those numbers. Most distributors are keeping track of those things. So to talk about different service level things, I think is a good conversation up front to say, how do you perform?
And knowing the distributor's business is important. Knowing what their KPIs are, because it's ultimately going to affect you. So you have to be a little bit of a student of the game. What is their business? Just like I can tell you this right now, the sales rep is a student of the restaurant game. He knows just as much, if not more, about the restaurant business than the restaurateurs oftentimes.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
No, and there's some that were restaurateurs and are now rep. I totally agree. Another point is what's the distributor's capacity for growth? So maybe, as your business grows in that location or you open further locations, are they going to be able to support you? Where's their geographic, delivery zone? If you're on the outskirts of it and you're going to be going further out, like, are they going to be able to service you? And then capacity for growth, also, you want a distributor that is growing, I feel, because they're always going to have the ability to buy better and do different things and have better service. A distributor that's not growing or going backwards, it's a rough thing. Like distribution is a tough business, and there's not a lot of margin. If you were making, anywhere from, 3 to 4 cents on the dollar, that's a great year. So when you look at that bottom line, mm-hmm. It doesn't, if you're going backwards, like, you want to make sure the distributor's still in business.
Oh, 100%. And you gotta look at, the other customers that distributor is servicing. When you're talking 3 or 4% margin, let's put in that perspective. You get 3 or 4 customers that are into a distributor for 3 weeks, 4 weeks worth of inventory, and they stick that person with all that inventory, and now the distributor has bad debt. That's a real problem. That's it takes a lot of boxes to make up for that lost profit.
Yes, a lot of green beans.
Yeah.
That's like 9 feet of tuna.
Oh, at least weekly.
Smoked. And then, then on service, what kind of item selection do they have? Are they a push or pull marketer? And what I mean by that is, are they, and we kind of talked about this, I don't want to belabor it, but, are they selling their own brand? Do they have an agenda with vendors that they're trying to push certain products out on you, or are they allowing you to buy what you want to buy? Now, this is a double-edged sword, because, you also, you're going to struggle as an operator with a distributor who, you sell something once a month or buy something once a month, you're demanding they stock that, or that they, so you got to have some reasonability with what you're doing. But if you got volume on an item and they don't stock it, you should have a distributor that's willing to bring that in for you with the appropriate inventory and make sure that they've got it for you.
How much time are you spending with your sales rep to know that they're an expert in these different areas and are really going to provide you long-term service and help and expertise?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point. And what I was going to say is when you have a company that's push this agenda, push this program, how can you trust that person to serve your agenda as a customer? Because sales reps ultimately is like the person you're closest with. That's your consultant for all intents and purposes, right? So, and most sales reps are really great consultants, believe it or not, because they see 7,500 customers and they have all this aggregate of ideas that they can share with you. It's amazing. But if they're serving an agenda, it becomes much more difficult because, and again, there's no transparency there. So yeah, maybe they're using their expertise and kind of weaponizing a little bit to do the old switcheroo and get you to buy something, even though it's maybe not the best product for you, but it's the best VIG for them. Or they're getting the most pressure to sell it, and then you end up with something you don't love, but at least they got it off their desk, right? So there's a struggle there, and it's conflict interest, and human nature plays into that and kind of expands it.
And that goes into making sure that you pick the right broadline distributor. If you're dealing with a big national chain that got a great buy on some horrible calamari, I'm going to guarantee that they want every restaurant in the city selling the same calamari as an appetizer. Those are the types of things you got to look out for that, a local independent distributor is not going to have that issue. Again, they're large companies. I'm not going to kid you. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars when you talk about a local distributor. But the national chains, they're billion-dollar operations.
More mouths to feed, more agendas to serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question.
And so, more layers of bureaucracy, too.
Yeah, and farther distance away from the customer, unfortunately.
Correct. You should be, especially if you're a 2-3 unit operator, you can probably get in contact with the CEO of a $200-300 million local broadline distributor. Imagine that.
I know the owner.
Yeah, no, there's hedge funds that can't get in contact with the
so true.
So true. The CEO of one of these national companies.
Yeah.
So put that in perspective.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in relationship and layers in a minute here, but I want to flip it over to, what kind of value adds do they have? And there's a long list of things, and there's many companies out there that have a large menu of all the things they can offer, but what actually is executable and what they actually do is a different equation. So, but on the value add, if you don't have software to do menu costing and food costing, if you don't have that in your restaurant, does the distributor have something that you can use? I think that's important. What kind of reporting do they have available? Do they have cost of goods reporting or void reporting? If you have multiple units that you can look and see, do I have compliance within my franchisees? And are you looking at cost of goods quarterly? What's going up, what's going down, looking at the markets, what kind of reporting do they have? What kind of order entry do they have? Are you a call to sales rep guy? Are you an online order guy? Are you want it on a mobile phone? You want to be able to scan barcodes and order? All those things. What do they have in those capabilities? I want to talk about menu printing real quick. It's become that thing that every restaurant wants the distributor to print their menus for free. And the straw at the end of the thing, you're having the negotiation and you're talking and they're like, well, Cisco's printing my menus.
It's the floor mats.
And you're like, ugh.
I'll buy the car, but you got throw in the floor mats.
No,
exactly. Exactly.
And it's like, well, how about I bring my corporate chef, Anthony, who's amazing, and show you how to actually make some more money.
Oh, that sounds better.
And you could pay for the menu printing, but regardless, do they have that capabilities? Do they have the ability to graphic design? Do they have the ability to do a menu for you, or do they have relationships that they can set you up with? At the end of the day, when I look at a menu, that really should be the restaurant's responsibility. But a lot of times, the industry has made that kind of the freebie, and when it's free,
brokers.
Well, and when it's free, it's most of the time it's probably not great.
They taught me in culinary school that if I put a national brand or reached out to a national broker, that they would pay a portion of my menu printing, and they did.
Yeah,
you put Heinz on there, a little bottle of Heinz, all of a sudden they give you $500 menu credits or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so I want to pivot to relationships. I think this is probably the most important thing. You got to be able to connect with the rep and the management. So what is the likability? And when I say likability, like when that rep shows up every week, are you excited to see them? Are they a good person? Do you jive well? Do you have similar interests? Because that's important because, I feel like, operators, in their restaurant, you need that. You need a best friend. You need somebody that you can lean on, somebody that you trust, somebody that not only trust on the pricing and all that other stuff, but trust in that they're looking out for your best interest in your business. You know what I mean? And I think it's something that can be overlooked. And sometimes I think it's okay as an operator to know, okay, who's your boss? Let me meet him. Okay, who's, next level management? Let me meet them. And, and make sure that it's a good connection because, if you don't have a great connection with that rep, I think it's okay to say, you know what, no offense, but, personality, whatever it is, I'd like to have a different rep, because that's something, you're going to interact with this person every day, so everything may work out, but if it's not jiving with the rep or, doesn't answer a phone call or, that's things you should demand that level of relationship and service.
I agree.
So I think it's something that not a lot of operators talk about, and they'll, stomach somebody that maybe isn't the greatest fit. But, I'm sure that distributor probably has a best friend that'll work out for you.
No, and that's where you talk to the regional manager. And I'm sure at almost every local independent broadliner, you're going to have that regional manager come visit you a couple times a year, or they're going to make contact, or you already know them and you're friends with them. God, everyone's been in the industry so long. It seems like, maybe you started and that regional manager was a sales rep at that time. And so you can get in contact with these people. These people want to talk to you. They want the best for your operation. So if that means putting a different player in front of you every week, they're going to do that.
They should be willing to do that. The right distributor will do that. And then, and listen, as an operator, don't be a goober. Don't buy $300, $400, $500 a week from somebody and demand to meet the CEO. Let's have some common sense here. If you're going to put your eggs in their basket and they're going to be a partner and you're going to be purchasing a good amount of goods from them, I would say it's okay to have that ask.
It's funny you say that because it's going back to the other point. Most of the times, me as an operator, when I'd meet the high-ranking officials with the independent operators, where I met them. It wasn't in my office or it wasn't their office. They had come into dinner at my restaurant to support me, cash out of their pocket to support me. That's a pretty warm feeling, just so you know. So you look out and you see, VP, and you see, your DSR, and you see the CEO. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. That really shows you they're in it to win it with you, and they care about your long-term sustainability. It's really a wonderful thing.
No, absolutely. And so I wanted to close with just, an ongoing partnership. So something that I was taught from actually a really world-class operator, when we were doing the courting process and trying to bring the business on, they asked for references. They asked for customers, and I think they wanted 10 customers that had bought from us for 5 years or longer.
What a great question.
And they wanted the contacts, and they called every one of them.
Wow.
Okay.
I love that.
And here's the best one. So that you think that's pretty good. What I mean? You're going to call 10 people. Now, obviously, the distributor's going to probably give you they're really good customers and friends and people that are going to say, but still, 10. Okay.
I know some people who don't have 10 friends.
10. Okay.
Yeah, I got two.
But here was the best one, is they said, we also would like one reference of somebody who purchased from you and left. I want to talk to that guy too.
I already know who this is. Though.
But I'm saying that was
That's amazing.
I was so impressed with that. Something that takes work on the distributor to do that, and it takes it takes some guts to say, okay, I'm gonna give you these people, and whatever happens. You know what I mean? So hopefully they don't call right after you got a mispick, or what I mean. but that's something I feel like get some references. Do you have to go to that extreme? No, but I think that was a good that set in my brain. If I'm doing a good job as a distributor, I should have no problems giving you that. What are your long-term goals as a restaurant operator? And does the distributor, are they in line with those long-term goals? Do they understand them, and do they care about them? Are they asking you about them? Are they just asking for the order? So I think that's important too.
No, and I think that long-term goal is so critical because it goes to the value add that we talked about earlier. Are they sending Anthony in with the corporate chef to help you work on your menu to mine out more profit? Do they have a business improvement person that's coming in and helping you? Do they have sales reps that are constantly learning and constantly students of the game to try to help you improve?
Well, and I can be honest with you, a lot of them do, and I can tell you it's disheartening because I've again, as a customer of been to these events where maybe you go meet the corporate chef or you go meet the business development guy. But again, it comes back to, they're helping you within the framework of their agenda. It's not a blank slate for you to walk in and say, hey, here's my business, here's my symptoms, diagnose me and treat me. It's, oh, hey, you might have this problem, but we want to give you this because we think it's a cure-all. And so you feel diverted as a customer, like, no, you're taking away from my needs and you're prescribing medicine I don't need. And it's really an uncomfortable situation. So yeah, they do that, but I don't think they do it with any pure intent or good faith expectations, as far as the business in relation with the customer is concerned.
David, thank you so much for giving all of us. David, thank you so much for giving us all that information. I just want to do a little recap. Loved it. It's such an important part of your business. You're spending so much money with that broadline distributor. They're trying to irk out a profit and their margins are very thin. It feels like, oh, I'm spending all this money with them, but they're really not making a ton of money. So you really have to cultivate that relationship and make sure that you pick the right one. So just, remember, look at the type of distributor, understand the pricing, what kind of service are they providing you, what are the value adds they're providing you. Make sure that is an amazing relationship with that person and that company. And then, is it really going to be an ongoing relationship? Because we want you to be in business for 20 years, and you want to be able to pick a distributor that wants you to be in business for 20 years and longer. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it. You can always find us all the show notes and more information on restauranttopia.com. Dave, anything?
No, just do your due diligence, as they would say.
I like that. Anthony?
Oh, you're giving me a chance to talk?
Oh,
Sweet. Thank you. No, I love this episode, Dave, and I think we don't often give a lot of thought to this. It's more about low pricing as the winner. And I think you've really illustrated some points here of why you consider things past pricing, because there's a lot of value in having a great distributor.
This is a high-quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restauranttopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restauranttopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.
Can you imagine that I can edit the intro?
How much are you going to be, you're going to be so mad at yourself?
I am.
For no reason, though.
You're going to be at the pool a lot this weekend.
No, I have to, the editing I have to do in front of the laptop.
You don't have the floating desk?
Ooh, that's a good call.